All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of Load the Box. This is like the sixth time I have started recording this episode because I don't know what to do with myself. I'm all alone. Will is traveling for business, so he's unable to make it. I'm pretty sure I haven't actually asked him because I don't want to rub salt in the wound. I'm pretty sure he had to watch that game on Monday night after the fact. So he didn't even get to enjoy watching the Vikings. I mean, I don't want to say dominate San Francisco because that's not what happened, but for half of that game it felt like the Vikings had a 2-possession lead on San Francisco. And the Vikings defense showed up in a big way. Cam Bynum getting the 2 interceptions late on the final 2 drives. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm bad at my job, so I don't know who forced the fumble that Dean Lowry, I'm pretty sure, recovered. But there was a fumble right after the Vikings get the ball to start the game, and Cousins throws a ball, and there's a little bit of duality of football that happened this week for the Vikings. And of course, you guys know this, you watched the game, but Cousins throws that ball to Addison, and it looks like it's actually a pretty good ball, and it hits Addison, and the defensive back just rips it away and takes it, and it's like, oh, shucks, we toned it over. It's like our 5th time toning it over on the first drive as an offense, which is a really bad stat, just a really bad stat. But then before half, of course, Cousins throws a bad ball deep down the seam to Addison, and the defensive back makes the play and has the ball in his hands, but it's Jordan Addison who whips it away and takes it in for the 40-yard touchdown. That really, I think, I told my wife at the time, I said that might be like the game-winning play, and sure enough, the Vikings end up winning by 5, 22-17, and that was maybe the difference because Greg Joseph missed an extra point. But I think this warrants pointing out, and I have a couple of big takeaways. I'm doing the show a little bit differently. I'll get into my big takeaways in a minute, but I just want to point this out. The Vikings had the ball on the 2-yard line, like about to score, right on the goal line almost, twice, and they walked away with 6 points from those 2 drives. The Vikings could have very easily been up 3 possessions on San Francisco, and a lot of people could have been, not Vikings fans were drinking in every single second of what happened on Monday night, but a lot of casual football fans could have been like, you know what, I gotta get up at 7 tomorrow to get to work. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab my shower, go to bed, or I'm going to go to bed and get up tomorrow, whatever the case is. I'm not watching this. This is a blowout. Who saw it coming? And instead, they kick the field goals, and Greg Joseph misses an extra point. That's 9 points because they scored 6. They could have scored 14. That's 8. And then a missed extra point. That's 9 points the Vikings just left out there. I'm not saying that to criticize them. I am a little bit. You have to get at least a field goal and a touchdown. Greg Joseph, come on, man. I'm not going to blame you for the 50-yarder at the end of the game that you missed that could have made it an 8-point game. I am a little upset with you that you missed it, but also I'm upset with Kevin O'Connell for even putting you in that position. But you got to make your extra points. We can't miss extra points against arguably the second best team in the NFC, which is what I'm officially calling them. I think that Philly, with that win over Miami, kind of proved themselves. But I told you I had 3 points, and I could go for 3 hours straight just talking. I'm recording this. It's almost 10 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock for you Central Time people. But I could talk until midnight Central about this San Francisco game. I'm going to try and keep this show brief. I'm going to talk about Green Bay at the end of it. So it's going to be fun. I hope you guys stick around, even though Will is usually the one that keeps the reins on me and either pushes me deeper into chaos or pulls me out of it if I'm getting a little too off the deep end. So I'm going to try and contain myself. I have 3 takeaways from the San Francisco game. No crazy graphics, no anything fun, just my sweet, sultry voice giving them to you. Number 1 takeaway from that game. Holy crap, Kirk Cousins put the team on his back. That was amazing. That is the first time in my life and by my life, I mean in the 6 years that Kirk Cousins has been a Minnesota Viking, that I have seen him play and make his teammates better. I've seen him have really good games. I've seen him make clutch throws, but I've seen, him, I don't want to say crumble under pressure because that's not fair. He's shown up like the Saints playoff game. He's shown up in some big comebacks, especially last year. He's made some throws that required some stones to throw, and he's executed at a high level. But last night, let me rewind before I say the last night thing. In all of the previous instances of him having the stones to make these comebacks and these electric plays, you didn't take anything away from him, but you did a little bit because it was like, okay, well, he's throwing to like Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and that might be the best receiver duo in the NFL. Or it was Diggs and Thielen, and that might have been the best receiver duo in the NFL. So he had these weapons. As my baby gets upset, he had these weapons that I don't want to say diminished it, but they made you think good team win. The team came back and won this game. Kirk Cousins won this game. Jordan Addison is a good receiver. I think we can say that now. He's a good receiver, but he's not Justin Jefferson. Brandon Powell is out there going like 6 for 60 or 4 for 60, catching balls on crucial third downs. He's threading the ball on third and long down the seam to TJ Hawkinson to move the chains and extend the drive in the second half. He just played, and I can't stress this enough, out of his mind. It was just crazy how well he played. I'm not going to fool myself. I'm not going to lie and say this is just the new standard for Kirk Cousins. He has to play like that every game. I expect him to not play as well against Green Bay. I don't think he's going to have a dud, but I don't expect him to play at the level he played against San Francisco. The whole team just seemed kind of like jacked up about the fact that everyone said that they were losing this game. I said they were losing. Will said they were losing. Every analyst on ESPN said they were losing. No one in their right mind thought that they were going to win this game. Excuse the crying baby in the background. And so the whole team seemed kind of pissed off about that. Cousins comes out. He's slinging the ball. It's like he was in attack mode from the first pass, which you don't see from Cousins a lot. A lot of times I think you see Cousins try to feel out the defense, and then whenever we go down 7 or it's late in the game, you see Cousins into attack mode Cousins, and that's the best Cousins in my opinion. And he was just on from getting the opening kickoff. He came out a man on a mission, a man possessed, and he played just an excellent football game. And you can't really talk about how well he played without pointing out 0 sacks. A lot of people are giving Cousins credit for not getting sacked. I understand saying, like, if Lamar Jackson jukes 3 guys in a game or on a play, being like, oh, he didn't get sacked, but he almost did on that play. And, like, if Cousins wasn't, like, running for his life. The offensive line should be getting so much praise this week for how well they played, especially Dalton Risner, who stepped in, who everyone's been saying he should get Ingram's job. He should get Ingram's job. He ends up getting Cleveland's job because Cleveland is banged up, and he steps in and the offensive line plays its best game in recent history, and it was just incredible to watch. This is a side note. I don't want this to count against my 3, and I tweeted this out from the show's Twitter. Follow that at LTB Vikings if you're not already, by the way. But I said a couple weeks ago, it was before the Kansas City game, I said the Vikings needed to take one game that they shouldn't win. And the season is right back on a shaky track, but the wheels are, we're getting there. And the schedule lightens up a lot after San Francisco. And I said you had to beat Kansas City or San Francisco. And in my brain, it was going to be Kansas City because they seemed more gettable than San Francisco did. But it doesn't matter who it was. You beat one of the 2 teams, one of the 2 best teams in the NFL that you played in the last 3 weeks. You beat San Francisco. Didn't have to be Kansas City. It was San Francisco that you beat. You're now back on track. You have 3 wins. You're a game out of 500. You're 2 games back in the division, and you still play 5 divisional games. Everything's out in front of you. The next takeaway that I have, and this is a complete 180, because last week on the show, Will asked me if I would tank, and I said that you can't really tank in the NFL. Kevin O'Connell isn't going to be up 10 at halftime and tell his guys, hey, let's ease up a little bit. Okay, we don't want to win. We're trying to draft better, because no player's going to buy into that. Players want to get paid, so they have to play well. Coaches want to keep their jobs, so they want to win games. GMs can tank, and I said that the Vikings should be looking to explore trades for guys like KJ Osborne, Daniil Hunter, let's see, who else? Harrison Smith, I think, is a guy that you could look at trading. I think I even floated the idea of getting rid of TJ Hawkinson. I am 180ing. I'm going to say it, I was incorrect about we should trade players, because I am back on I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid. I'm all the way back. I was going to come on if we lost this game, and I was going to say before the season, I said the Vikings might have a Super Bowl caliber team this year, and their offense was going to be really good, and their defense was going to take a big step, and they might win the Super Bowl, and I said they're going to win the Super Bowl. This is the year. This is the year every Vikings fan's been waiting for. I was going to retract that on this show, but the Vikings said, no, dummy, keep the take. So the take stays. The Super Bowl take stays for now. And to get to that Super Bowl, the Vikings, this is the second takeaway. I know it took me a while to get here. The Vikings need to be buyers at the deadline. And specifically, the Vikings need to go get Chase Young from the Washington Commandos. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option. He's a young pass rusher. Marcus Davenport's on injured reserve, and I don't trust him at all to stay healthy. He has been in Minnesota for 7 weeks of football games, and he's played in like 2. And he looked good when he played, but then he got banged up, and it seems like that ankle's not getting healthy, and it seems like his whole thing since he got to the NFL is he's pretty good when he's on the field, but he can't stay on the field, and it seems like this was a miss by Kwesi. I appreciate the shot that he took, hey, this guy, if he can just stay healthy, is going to be really good. Maybe we can be the team that gets lucky and gets the guy when he finally figures out how to stay healthy. The Vikings need to go get Chase Young. I would also be okay with any defensive tackle of any relevance that wants to be traded. I don't know who it is. I really don't. I was kind of looking to try and find maybe I think Hargraves seems a little unhappy in Washington. Maybe we can go get a guy like that, but we need to go get someone on the defensive line to let Daniil Hunter continue to do, playing like the best pass rusher in the NFL, which is saying something because Myles Garrett is basically winning games by himself. But Daniil Hunter leads the league in sacks. So statistically, you could say he's the best pass rusher in the NFL right now. He needs a running mate. The Vikings' run defense needs to not have to rely on stacking the box. Why did I not say load the box? It's the name of the show. The Vikings' run defense needs to depend on not having to load the box TM every play and maybe back off a little bit and maybe get to where we can blitz a little bit less, just bring 4 guys, drop 7, and those 4 guys, doesn't matter if you're running or passing, they're going to be a threat to come and get your quarterback or shut down your run at the line of scrimmage. I want the Vikings to be buyers at the deadline. And also, I don't want to see us trade our first-round pick, but I know Hawkinson had a rough start to the season. He had a really good game on Monday night. He had a rough start to the season. I don't think that the TJ Hawkinson trade was a bad deal. I mean, it was a second-round pick for a tight end, and then we paid him. And so go get a defensive lineman, and if he plays well for you, like TJ Hawkinson did last season, then you pay him, and you have a good defensive lineman on your team, and you can figure out the cap situation and all that nonsense later. So, I'm all about the Vikings getting another guy on the defensive side of the ball, getting stronger in what seems like it is a strength of this team, which is just crazy to say that the defense is a strength of this team when we were so bad. I mean, we were just so bad last season. The third takeaway, I have to stop myself from leaning back in my chair, or else you guys won't be able to hear me very well. The third takeaway, this team could be very good. And I said it before the season, and I kind of said it earlier in this show when I was talking about the Super Bowl. I predicted, I said this team's going to score 30 points a lot because the offense is going to be really good. Like Cousins in year 2 of this O'Connell scheme, a committee of running backs just doing just enough, but really we're a passing offense, and that's okay. And then the defense with Brian Flores just I'm going to say 180ing, and it's not that we're going from the second worst defense in the NFL to the best, but they're playing competent now. And they get stops, and they're forcing teams to punt, or they're forcing turnovers, and it just feels like the defense is going to not be a liability. Like, if we played the Giants this season, I think we would make Daniel Jones look like Daniel Jones and not Dan freaking Marino. So, man, when Jefferson gets back, this team could be good. If we win, and now I'm going to start getting into, like, full purple Kool-Aid mode. If we win against Green Bay, and then I think we have Atlanta after that. If we go undefeated without Jefferson, and then we get Jefferson back, and we work him in, Jordan Addison has proven himself that he should be wide receiver 2 because he's too valuable to not be on the field, and he should probably be the first option on some plays. Like, I would say Jefferson should have like 50% of the pass plays where he's the first option, and then Addison should be like 25 to 30%, and then it can be like Hawkinson and KJ. But, I mean, KJ didn't play badly on Monday night, but it really felt like it was Jordan Addison and Brandon Powell and TJ Hawkinson. Not in that order. It was Addison, Hawkinson, Powell, KJ. And man, it really feels like KJ is not a 2, and it kind of feels like he's not a 3 at times. And it's not that he's bad. He's a good guy to have. He's a good, I love KJ Osborne. I'm a fan of his, but I mean, he feels like a 3 or a 4 more than he does a 2. And Addison just balled out against San Francisco in prime time, so you're going to have fans chomping at the bit to see more Jordan Addison, even if Justin Jefferson comes back. So I don't know. I'm all in. The chips on the table. I'm ready to be held again. The team, we've had a rough 7 weeks of football. I went from being very high on the team to very low on the team. And now it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Let's just call it that. That's where I'll end the San Francisco take. I will say the game balls. I mean, let me double check it. This is great content, right? As I click on things. Yeah, Will picked Kene Wongwu to be the game ball recipient on his end. He said he was going to have a kick return for a touchdown in this one if we won, and I picked Ivan Pace. I said we were going to blitz a lot and Pace was going to get like a sack or 2. Didn't notice Ivan Pace a lot in the game. I don't know that he played a ton. I think that they kind of kept with like Jordan Hicks, and they played a lot of 5 guys at the line. It was kind of an interesting defense from Flores, but we were both wrong on the game ball. The game ball goes to Kirk Cousins and probably Cam Bynum, right, for 2 interceptions on the last 2 drives of the game. Just chef's kiss of a game. I'm sorry to the Minnesota Vikings for not believing in you, but now that I believe in them again, they can go lose 3 more games and break my heart like they usually do. All right, let's get off of San Francisco. Let's move on because the Vikings also need to be moving on, because the Vikings, I feel, are going to buy into their own hype a little bit. And we're going to have a letdown game in Green Bay. And there's no room for letdown games. You have to win. You have to go like 4-2 at worst in the division this season if you want to realistically be a playoff team, maybe win the division. So I'm going to assume we'll drop in 1 to Detroit. I don't know why I said it like that. That's how my dad says Detroit. He says Detroit. But I'm assuming we'll drop in 1 to Detroit. We just can't lose this game. It feels like a must-win game. You get to 500 and you're right back in it. I mean, maybe it feels like a must-win game because I want to ride this high a little bit longer of the Vikings being like competent at football. So let's get into some keys to victory against Green Bay. Number 1, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Vikings have to keep playing clean football. Cousins throws the 1 pick on the first drive, not another. He had that 1 almost pick before halftime that Addison took to the house somehow. But we can't turn the ball over. No fumbles. I don't think we fumbled once in the San Francisco game. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but no fumbles in San Francisco. We got to play another game with no fumbles in Green Bay. And Cousins has to go out there in attack mode. If he throws a pick, that's okay. If it's him being aggressive, I'm okay with him throwing like one interception. But we can't have a 3-pick game, complete opposite of attack mode Coke, where we throw a bunch of picks and then we get super conservative because we're afraid we're going to throw, 5 picks in a game and get mocked on social media. We have to keep playing clean football if the Vikings want to get to where I think they can go. And so to beat Green Bay, obviously, to beat every team, I'm going to say it in every show, but to beat every team, we have to continue to play clean football. First thing, I guess, that I want to talk about with this Green Bay game, it's a division game. It's going to be tough. I know Green Bay is not looking so hot lately. They just lost to Denver, which is like, that's rock bottom, I think, in the NFL, is losing to Denver. They got beat by 50 and gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. They're a bad team, and Green Bay just lost to them. Jordan Love's decision-making hasn't looked good this season. He's regularly throwing into double coverage. He had some flashes early in the season where he was using his legs and he was throwing nice deep balls, and I think teams have adjusted a tad to him to kind of, they put a spy on him. They say, okay, we're going to take your legs out of the game and we're going to play 2 high safety. Let's see how patient you can be here, guy in your 5th season who is making his 8th start in the NFL. With all of that being said, it's Green Bay, and it's in Green Bay, so it's not like we're going to waltz in there high on our own supply, reading the headlines, and we're going to smoke them by 30, and then, go on to Atlanta. So it's going to be a tough game. The defense is going to play us tough. I hope the refs keep some laundry in their pocket. I mean, if it's egregious, obviously throw it, but let's not call pass interference on every ticky-tack, nonsensical call that we can make. Let's just not do all that kind of stuff. But it should be a tough, and I'm expecting a really good game that's going to end up being close. Green Bay, the story of their season so far has been that they start looking really bad, and then at halftime, they decide, you know what, actually, we want to be good at football, and they start playing really well, and they play well from behind. They rally back, but they've just fallen short this season. Like, they get this close, and then Jordan Love throws a pick into double coverage, and that ends the game. So the Vikings need to be aware of that, and the Vikings need to say, you know what, we know a thing or two about rallying back in the 4th quarter, and they need to stay in attack mode no matter what. I don't want to see a 50-yard field goal to go up by 8 and running the ball on 3rd and 10 to chew the clock. No, I want to see us go for the throat. I want to see us go for it on 4th down late in the game to put the game away, rather than trust a shaky kicker to make a 50-yard field goal to make it a 1-possession game still. But, at least we can't lose on the next possession. I want to see Kevin O'Connell, and that was a big gripe I had in San Francisco that I decided not to talk about tonight, but I want to see Kevin O'Connell be very aggressive and very, I don't want to say analytical, but yeah, man, I mean, if it's 4th and 2 and do we want to kick a 55-yard field goal, or do we want to go for it on 4th and 2? Let's go for it, and let's put this team away, because if we give Green Bay a chance to come back, 1, we're the Vikings, we have bad luck, and 2, Green Bay's whole thing has been they rally late. They will rally late, and they'll make a comeback against us. So we got to get a lead. We got to keep the lead. We got to try our best to keep the ball out of their hands and suppress their late game heroics that they've been trying so desperately to pull off. And finally, and I said this earlier, I gave the offensive line some flowers. The offensive line, they have to play not as good as they did on Monday Night Football, but very close to what they played on Monday Night Football. I think Cousins' whole thing has been, if you give him time, he will be very good. And I think I said in the first, week 1 show in the preview for Tampa Bay, I said if you give Cousins time, he'll drop a dime. And I think he's proven that to be the truth. So if the offensive line comes to play and they pick up blitzes and they you got Darrisaw just pushing people on the ground and bullying, whoever Green Bay's best pass rusher is or whoever they line up over Darrisaw, I think Cousins is going to be able to dice up this Green Bay defense a little bit. They play a lot of off coverage. It's very Ed Donatel, the way that they've been playing defense this season. Joe Barry is catching all of the blame for their shaky start to the year because it's a lot of off coverage. It's, keep it in front of you. Don't give up the big play. So Cousins just has to be patient, throw a lot of slants, a lot of check downs, 5 yards, 7 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards, touchdown. That's how it has to go. I'd like to see the running game get going a little bit. I loved what we did in San Francisco with the running game. I think it was 8 carries for Madison, 10 carries for Akers, and I think Ty Chandler had 2 snaps, which I think is give Ty Chandler like 2 more snaps. But that's a really good 3 running backs getting in the mix, catching screens, making plays. I love that. I love the committee look that we saw. I just want to see a little bit better of a committee because I don't think we rushed for 100 yards against San Francisco. So I would like to see Madison, end up with like 75 yards, Akers end up with like 60, and Ty Chandler catch like a 25-yard screen pass. All thumbs up from me if that's the case. I'll get into predictions. These aren't going to count against the score predictions that we're tracking. Will's blowing me out. He gained another 6 points on me. It's getting bad. It's been bad. It's been bad all season. He's smoking me in this. But I am going to go, unfortunately, because I feel like this is a jinx, but I am going to go with the Vikings winning this game. I have them winning it 20-17. Like I said, a close game. I mean, like down to the wire, but I don't have it as a defensive interception ending the game. I actually have it as like a Vikings first down. Vikings get the ball with 3.5 minutes to go, and they get a couple first downs, and then they knee the ball, and it's kind of a dud ending. But the game's going to be close. It's your biggest rival in the worst stadium in football, Lambeau Field, coming off of the biggest win that you've had since like Buffalo of last season. You have to come out and execute at a high level. There's that it's not really old, but there was that stat that popped up last year that like, hey, teams that play San Francisco lose. They're like 2-15 after playing San Francisco the following week because they're so physical and they hit you and they're just mean and they're nasty. I think the Vikings did a good job of matching their nastiness and matching their intensity, but you have to bring that nastiness and intensity into Green Bay now because you're going up against the division rival. And if you remember the last time we were in Green Bay had a chip on their shoulder because Justin Jefferson went for like $180 in week 1. And so their whole team played with nastiness and fire, and they smoked us. So I'd like to see the team roll into Green Bay with a little bit of nastiness, go out there, push them around, be mean, be nasty, say insults about their families, get personal, get chippy, throw punches. Not, if they throw punches first, punch back. But, I mean, come on, man. Let's, show some teeth. Show the dog in you. Do that whole thing. But, yeah, 2017 Minnesota. I think, I have an offensive game ball. And I'm going to go... Ooh, man, I didn't really think about this because Will's not doing the show. The obvious one to say for me is Addison because he just had this breakout game, but I'm actually gonna go with Madison. Maybe it's because I bought the I Am Gifted T-shirt, which I've worn on the show before, but I just took a shower and took it off. But I'm gonna go with Alex Madison, like getting 2 touchdowns in this one. He scores both touchdowns. We get down to the goal line and we actually score touchdowns. I don't think he'll go for 100 yards because we are doing this committee thing, but Madison finding the end zone a couple times, going for like 70 plus yards, I think is a really good day for a committee running back. And so give me Alex Madison to get a game ball in a huge Vikings win. The Vikings get to 500 for the first time this season, and truly it feels like after Sunday, the season starts now. And you rally off some more wins against the NFC South and Vegas and Denver. and really you're just trying to win everything up until you play Cincy Detroit, and let's see if we can win a damn division, guys. All right, that's all I got. I will now do my final thoughts and get us out of here. Shop Unified. There's two Unifieds tonight. Unified took the spot of Will on this show. Follow Will on Twitter at Will Badloos. I will plug his Twitter even though he's traveling for business. Wish my fantasy team good luck. Follow the show at LTB Vikings. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I feel like a scumbag every time I say that kind of stuff, but I really appreciate when you guys do that. It helps me and it lets me feel loved. So other than that, I just want football to be fun again. I just want to feel good about football. And I will end with this because I'm not quite to the mark I want to hit yet on this video. I live in Cincinnati. I feel like I say that every show. So if you watch this show, you know that. I was like a minor celebrity after Monday Night Football this week. I work with a company that has I work in like logistics, and a truck driver came in and he's like the company driver, so he knows I'm a huge Vikings fan, and I'm wearing my cousin's jersey and this Vikings hat and a Vikings zip up hoodie, and he comes in and he goes, "That's what I'm talking about," and he gives me a big high five, and my boss's boss is texting me saying, "You like that?" And those guys, I'm trying to use like a forklift, and guys are coming up to me and they're saying things like, "That was the best game all season, man. You guys are back. I didn't even know Kirk Cousins could do that." And I was like, what? And it truly felt like I was waiting for someone to come up to me and be like, will you sign my t-shirt, Vikings fan who lives in Cincinnati? And I want more of that. So I want the Vikings to continue to win because I will be chasing this feeling of celebrity for the rest of my life because it felt good. And that will be my final thought. Thank you guys for tuning in. Will be back next week, so the show will actually be good again. I've been Jordan Hawthorne. I'll leave you with a skull, y'all.